Welcome to the podcast where relationships, confidence, and determination all converge into an amazing, heartfelt experience. This is Speaking from the Heart.
Welcome back to episode number 85 of Speaking from the Heart. And if you were a kid growing up, I know that you might have had some opportunities to learn a lot of different skills, such as sewing, cooking, maybe even figured out how to balance a budget, maybe even learned how to write a check. But some of these things that I even just discussed are becoming a dying art, especially as we enter the year 2024. And I wonder sometimes whether those are the things that we should really be focusing on more than others. Especially when we think about the fact that those skills, the things that we easily learn as a kid, are often forgot about as an adult. And then we realize that those things that were being taught about 18 to 20 years ago catch up to us. Now, it doesn't have to be necessarily that time range, but it certainly can catch up to us at any point of our lives. So today's episode is in honor of all those home ec teachers, all those budgeting teachers, all those finance teachers, all those different types of people in our lives that have helped us to become not just the best versions of ourselves as a kid, but now making us realize and scratch our head that we should have been paying attention a little bit more. I remember my home ec days and also learning a lot about what it meant to write a check, for that matter. One of the teachers that I had growing up was Mrs. Gundrum. She was a wonderful lady that even in high school, she showed so much of herself, not only in the way in which she taught, but she also showed ways in which she cared about her students and was very strict when it came to her grading policy. Not only did I learn how to write a check, but I also learned how to balance a budget, understand what credit cards mean, the whole 9 yards when it came to the finance world. Now, you would have thought that I would have went into some sort of business major when I went to college, but that was certainly not the case. I went a completely different path, going into political science and even journalism for that matter. So much for the journalism degree. I never even wrote on a newspaper. But even with all those things, I learned so much about the world of business and what it meant to actually take a hold of what my destiny is. My mom was a great sewer. She was able to sew so many different types of quilts, and even to this day, I still have some of the remnants of those quilts from my childhood and what she has given me as she starts to continue to declutter in her house. But I love the fact that even with these skills, we are learning so much more about taking care of ourselves. If you ever think about the fact that in home ec, we learned so many different things about cooking, measuring, how to make sure that we knead the bread, how we were able to learn so many different things about the stove, even the spice rack, which we take for granted today, especially in the kitchen. And I know that for many of us, we might not have that opportunity to cook every single day, let alone balance a budget, because we delegate those services to someone else. Who would have thought the very skills that we learn, the life skills, are essentially sold as a product or service that blow up our news feed, our Twitter feed, regardless of what it is, it has certainly taken control of our lives. But even with those aspects in mind, have you really stopped to think of the importance of what those skills can really create, not just in the best version of who we are, but also represent the different attitudes and shifting perceptions, which we recently talked about in another episode, about the importance of taking care of ourselves? I know that for many years, I wasn't taking care of myself using some of those basic skills, and now I am regretting it. Thinking about my mom and her sewing skills really put me to shame. The rips that I have in my pants, the rips that I have in my socks, now I'm not quite sure how to sew because I was not utilizing those skills quite often. And those were really the finer points of life that I should have really been paying attention more to, instead of worrying about what was happening with other people. I think that's really putting into perspective the fact that sometimes we give our attention to the things that we should never, ever give our attention to. Nasty people, difficult bosses, unappreciative friends, situations in which are out of our control. Those subjects and so much more were not covered in any sort of class. But yet, if we would have been able to understand those finer skills of learning how to resolve conflicts, having a hard work ethic, let alone being able to learn firsthand all these different types of skills that our high school, college, or even other sort of curricular activities could have taught us, maybe we would have been better off. Now, maybe you are one of my listeners that has done such a great job of taking care of yourself and have utilized all those skills. I will certainly hire you to teach me all those things because, as I've always said on this show, other people that have the great skills and abilities to be able to teach others that I don't cover in my business, I will certainly hire you and would love to have you on the show. But those finer points in life weren't really explained until it was too late for me to be able to learn and grow. Now, you might be saying, Josh, you're almost 37 years of age, which I really am. My 37th birthday here in a few weeks. Are you really saying to me today that you don't want to learn a new trick? Are you saying that you can't teach an old dog new tricks? Really true? Not at all. As a matter of fact, I think that anybody at any age can learn so many different types of things. It doesn't matter what that number is in front of you. It's really about your persistence and your willingness to change. But as I've gotten older, I realize that there are other things that I know and I can invest in myself that I can say to others and create that value that allows them to not only feel a lot better about who they are, but they are able to learn some valuable skills in a different sense. So for all those people out there that are able to sew, for all those people that are able to balance a budget, which I am able to balance, I think that we all are appreciative of you. And you should appreciate yourself. Give yourself a pat on the back for the fact that you are able to do some of the things that even some others are not able to do. I think that these subjects, regardless of how you think, how you say, how you feel, how you react to them, and maybe they conjure up memories of the past, they can really help you to create those best versions of yourself if you know just a little bit of each. You don't have to be a master sewer like my mom is, making quilts out of nothing and essentially creating these tapestries that can hang on walls and be appreciative. Because especially in the south central part of Pennsylvania where we grew up the most, those are the sort of aspects that are tradition and help us to really learn about not only the basic life skills, but also make them feel a little bit better about what they're providing to society. Those are gifts. Those are exchanges of not only value, but also appreciation for others. Now, before you go to the mailbox and you send to Your Speaking Voice LLC all your quilts and all your other projects that you've been able to do so that I can feature them on the show, think about it this way. I don't want to see all those items because you should be giving those items to somebody else that will have even more value to appreciate from them. Huh? What do you mean, Josh? Appreciate other values? I've always been an advocate about the fact that we need to be able to lean into others, be able to help them grow, be able to let them see what you truly have to offer. And I know that in other episodes we covered the fact that we need to figure out how that really interplays, not only in our own life personally, but how we can extend that professionally and beyond. And if you're still struggling with figuring out what that is, I encourage you to go listen to those other episodes and understand that maybe you have a gift to give to this world and you have yet to unlock it. But I think that maybe if you're thinking about some of these subjects that I'm talking about that conjure up some amazing memories and make you smile inside, maybe those are the gifts that you should start to focus on. Now, this might be the point of the episode that I could easily end it and say, thanks for being part of Speaking from the Heart. But there's a little bit something else that I really want to share about this subject matter that is really important for us to understand. The lessons that we learn as a child, especially growing up, are so important for not only the ways in which we develop ourselves into an adult, but we often learn what those things are that we need to have or equip ourselves with at a very young age. Many of us don't get that opportunity to really be able to reteach ourselves the the skills that we might have been mistaught growing up. For example, being able to say please and thank you is usually a courtesy in itself by making sure that you're polite to somebody else that has done something for you and acknowledging that they have given you something of great value. But some people don't know how to say please and thank you. Some of them don't even know how to open a door for somebody else, especially somebody that is disabled. I know for myself, whenever I go to a gas station or a grocery store that has some manual doors that you have to open as opposed to those automatic ones, I always let that other person behind me go first. And I don't know if that's just because I was always instilled with that, especially in elementary school, which shout out to Ole Valley Elementary School for teaching me some of those skills. I think there's a lot more that meets the pass when it comes to the different opportunities that we have with not only sharing what our gifts are, but what we learn as a child are also those same gifts that we share with others. If you have never stopped to think about the fact that as a child, we learn so many different things about the finer points of life, maybe you need to reflect on the fact that those points might have been missed or maybe been lost along the way in becoming an adult. I know for a fact that maybe you're not opening a door, especially when you're going to work, because who wants to go to work, right? Spend another 8-hour day, be able to earn money, or even for my business owners, working 12 to 16 hours, because we all know that we work way over what we should be doing. But yet, at the same time, what if we extended the same courtesies that we learned as a child by saying please and thank you to the workforce? I know it sounds like a very childish, simple concept, but if you really think about it, our world needs a lot more manners. And our world needs to relearn a lot of basic skills to be able to teach and educate far beyond into the future. This episode isn't to lecture or educate on the importance of having those sort of skills, because if you read any sort of trade article, let alone even the news media about the importance of having this because we're losing it, I feel like you're missing a bigger part of the overall conversation that should be had. I think that we need to learn the fact that those skills, let alone those opportunities that we've been granted as a kid, whether it's writing a check, balancing our checkbook, regardless of what it is, we need to be able to learn not only those skills, but continue to educate to others those same basic skills. That doesn't mean that you need to show somebody a cell phone and have them go on YouTube to learn everything, because that's the cheap way out. And I know it's so easy to turn to technology to help us understand a lot of different things. I know I had to learn to tie a tie because as many times as my dad showed me, I couldn't quite pick up how he was doing the knot, and he never would slow down to show me how that tie was tied. As an alternative, I went to YouTube, and that's when I learned the famous Windsor knot. And oh yes, ladies and gentlemen, especially my gentlemen, if you know what I'm talking about with tying a Windsor knot, it's pretty simple when you think about it. But those basic skills, especially being taught by somebody else, that we are able to create and function with, and we show it to somebody else, creates a personal connection that we never thought we could ever have, because we're now forming a relationship. Now, you might have been wondering when I was finally going to get to one of my values. There you go. But it isn't just about the values of my business. The values of who you are. It's learning about how to work hard, how to resolve differences, how to open the door, how to say please and thank you. It's not just all those things, but it's so much more than that. And I know that it might be really easy for us to adapt these today, and maybe we have already adapted them as a child, and we can continue to walk that path. But some of us have forgotten how to walk that path. Robert Frost wrote a wonderful poem way back in his heyday about the road less taken. We have the road that has been paved and the road that hasn't been trudged upon. And I think that for many of us, we might have walked on the road that has not been trudged upon so many times, because it allows us to form new opportunities, new relationships, and create different attitudes about how we can move forward in our lives. But sometimes the paths that have already been paved are also good to walk on too. So never forget about the fact that balance can help us so much with not only explaining those finer points in life, but also giving us some common sense lessons that we should be able to share with everybody, regardless of your experience level. And don't only rely on your parents, but also rely on your grandparents and other acquaintances to help you understand that maybe there are some things that you can learn from them. It's never too late to learn, to be able to understand that maybe some of the ideas, concepts, and knowledge of this world have yet to be untapped. But yet at the same time, even if you have tapped into that knowledge previously, it's always nice to have a little bit of a refresher. Because I don't know if you have a Mrs. Gundrum or any other type of home ec teacher in your life that has created those opportunities to help you grow and learn a lot of different basic skills. Because even as I reflect on this whole opportunity in our lives to be able to align with the best versions of ourselves, it sometimes means going back in the past, addressing some of the deficiencies that we've had as a child, and being able to relearn those skills to create not just that best version, not just those opportunities, not just those personal and professional endeavors. It allows us to learn a little bit about humanity. And the last time I checked, you and I are human beings. In this world that's surrounded by AI, artificial intelligence, technology in which we have information at our fingertips, and the ability to interact through social media, let alone the whole world wide web that we call the internet, we forget about the fact that the spoken word, the actions that we use with our own two hands and our own 2 feet, for that matter, can make such a wonderful, long-lasting impact on others. So get out your needle, get out your calculator, and get out your stove with all those pots and pans. Because maybe you can show somebody else not only how to cook, not only how to balance a budget, not only manage their credit card debt, not only so many other things, but maybe you will be looked upon not only a mentor, not only a leader, but somebody that has lived life to the fullest. Because the basic skills are just as fulfilling as the complex. Thanks for listening to episode number 85 of Speaking from the Heart, and I look forward to hearing from your heart very soon.
Thanks for listening. For more information about our podcast and future shows, search for Speaking from the Heart to subscribe and be notified wherever you listen to your podcasts. Visit us at www.yourspeakingvoice.biz for more information about potential services that can help you create the best version of yourself. See you next time.